1. Introduction. The hidden side of kindness. Kindness is a universal value, praised across cultures, religions, and philosophies. It's the act of showing goodwill, offering help, and making others feel valued. From the simple act of holding the door for someone to grand gestures of selflessness. Kindness is seen as a virtue that connects people and fosters positive relationships. But is kindness always a good thing? Could there be instances where being too kind actually causes harm, both to ourselves and others? This is a question that might seem counterintuitive, as we are often taught to be kind without limit. Yet there's a subtle danger in unrestrained kindness, one that could lead to burnout, resentment, or even exploitation. In this exploration, we'll delve into how excessive kindness can negatively impact your life, often without you realizing it. But before we get there, let's look to the wisdom of Stoicism, a philosophy that advocates for balance, rationality, and virtue in all things. Stoics believe that the key to a meaningful life lies in cultivating wisdom, temperance, and self-control. So, what do Stoics say about kindness? Can their teachings help us navigate the fine line between selflessness and self-neglect? By examining the Stoic perspective, we'll uncover surprising insights that challenge our usual understanding of kindness. This exploration will shed light on how we can be kind, but with wisdom and boundaries, to avoid the pitfalls of excessive generosity. 2. The Stoic view of kindness. Stoicism, founded in ancient Greece and refined by Romans like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, offers a compelling framework for living a virtuous life. At its core, Stoicism teaches that the key to happiness and tranquility lies in cultivating virtues such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. The Stoics' goal is not to be detached from the world, but to act in accordance with reason, guided by principles rather than by unchecked emotion. When it comes to kindness, the Stoic perspective is unique. In contrast to the common belief that kindness involves self-sacrifice and limitless giving, Stoicism emphasizes balance. A Stoic does not give to others at the expense of their own well-being or values. Kindness, from this viewpoint, is not about exhausting oneself in the service of others. It's about offering help and goodwill in a measured, wise manner. For the Stoics, kindness is deeply connected to the idea of living virtuously. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrote in his Meditations that the best way to be kind is to act in accordance with nature, offering help when needed, but without compromising one's own principles or peace of mind. Epictetus, a former slave and Stoic teacher, advised his students to focus on what they can control, emphasizing that kindness should not lead to personal suffering or resentment. Seneca, known for his letters on ethics, echoed this sentiment, teaching that we should not seek to gain virtue through excessive sacrifice, as it undermines our own tranquility. In Stoicism, self-care is a cornerstone. To be kind to others, one must first care for oneself. Only from a place of strength, wisdom, and balance can true kindness flow. So what happens when kindness goes too far? The Stoics would argue that losing control over one's kindness could lead to exhaustion, exploitation, or an unhealthy dependency on others, all of which prevent us from living virtuously. As we continue, we'll examine 4 ways in which excessive kindness can harm your life and how Stoicism provides a framework to avoid these traps. 3. Way number 1. Kindness without boundaries leads to self-neglect. Kindness is often equated with selflessness. The idea that the more you give, the better you are, is ingrained in many of us from an early age. We are taught to be generous, to help others, and to prioritize the needs of those around us. But what happens when we give too much of ourselves to others, leaving little or nothing for ourselves? The danger of kindness without boundaries is that it can lead to self-neglect, where your own well-being is sacrificed in the name of helping others. When you continuously pour out your energy to assist others, whether it's helping a friend in need, offering emotional support to a colleague, or caring for a family member, it can feel good in the moment. But if you don't recognize the importance of maintaining your own limits, the emotional and physical toll of such endless giving can eventually leave you depleted. Over time, without boundaries, you may begin to feel drained, resentful, or even bitter toward the very people you have been helping. This is the paradox of unguarded kindness. The more you give, the less you have to offer, and the less genuine your kindness becomes. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, were keenly aware of the dangers of neglecting oneself in the pursuit of virtue. In his meditations, Aurelius emphasizes the importance of self-discipline and balance in all things. He writes, "You are a little soul carrying around a corpse." His words serve as a reminder that we are not just our actions or our kindness. We are also responsible for maintaining the health of our own soul, our body, and our mind. Without this inner balance, we risk being consumed by the needs and demands of others, which can lead to burnout. When we help others excessively without taking care of ourselves, it's as though we are slowly draining our own life force. Whether it's physical exhaustion, emotional depletion, or mental burnout, you can quickly find yourself running on empty. This is why the Stoics place such an emphasis on self-care, not as a selfish act, but as a necessary part of being able to give wisely and with integrity. Marcus Aurelius himself practiced this self-awareness by setting clear priorities and being mindful of his time and energy. But what happens when you've given everything and have nothing left to offer? This is a question that many people who've neglected their own boundaries eventually face. You may find that you have no energy to engage in your own passions, no time to pursue your own goals, and no emotional reserves to support your own well-being. This is when the cracks in your kindness begin to show. What was once an act of goodwill becomes an obligation. The satisfaction you once felt in helping others may turn to frustration and resentment because you feel like you're giving away pieces of yourself without replenishing them. When we fail to acknowledge our own needs, we start to lose touch with the very thing that made us capable of kindness in the first place: our sense of inner peace and contentment. As the Stoics would argue, to live virtuously is to maintain a harmony within ourselves, not to allow ourselves to become consumed by the world around us. Kindness without boundaries is a sure path toward personal depletion and dissatisfaction. So, how can we apply Stoic wisdom to set healthy limits on kindness and avoid self-neglect? The Stoics urge us to be mindful of our internal state and to live according to principles of self-discipline. One of the most practical pieces of advice comes from Epictetus, who believed that we should focus on what is within our control: our thoughts, our actions, and our time. He reminds us that we cannot always control the needs of others, but we can control how much of our energy we choose to give. Setting boundaries means recognizing that you have limits and that you are not responsible for solving everyone's problems or meeting everyone's needs. It's about being kind to others while also being kind to yourself. acknowledging that your well-being is crucial in order to sustain your ability to help others in the future. A simple Stoic practice is to ask yourself, will helping this person harm my well-being or hinder my own goals? If the answer is yes, then you must be willing to set a limit. This might mean saying no or simply offering a smaller amount of help than you originally planned. In addition, the Stoics encourage us to reflect on our own needs and to take time for self-care. Marcus Aurelius often took moments to reflect on his thoughts and to restore his energy in private. This was not a selfish retreat, but a way to reconnect with his own inner wisdom and to restore his capacity to lead and serve others. When we begin to set these boundaries, we allow our kindness to flow from a place of abundance rather than depletion. You don't have to be endlessly available to others in order to be kind. In fact, by giving yourself the space to recharge, you create a sustainable cycle of giving that doesn't drain you. As you practice this balance, you will notice that your kindness becomes more genuine, more grounded, and ultimately more effective in helping those around you. By recognizing the importance of setting limits and honoring your own well-being, you ensure that your kindness is an asset, not a burden. With this approach, you honor both yourself and those you help, creating a healthier and more balanced life for everyone involved. 4. Way number 2. You start enabling, not helping. There is a fine line between helping someone and enabling them. To help is to offer assistance in a way that empowers the other person, encourages growth, and fosters independence. To enable, however, is to give someone the means to avoid the consequences of their own actions, or to continue harmful behavior without learning from their mistakes. It might feel good in the moment to provide aid, but when kindness slips into enabling, it ultimately harms the person you're trying to help by preventing them from developing the skills, resilience, and independence they need to thrive. Enabling happens when kindness is used to shield someone from facing their own challenges. It might look like constantly solving their problems for them, covering up their mistakes, or offering help even when it's clear that the other person isn't trying to help themselves. It's the idea of giving someone fish instead of teaching them how to fish. In the short term, this may seem like the kind, loving thing to do. However, over time, you're not fostering their growth. You're robbing them of the opportunity to learn how to handle difficulties on their own. Seneca, a leading Stoic philosopher, believed deeply in the value of self-sufficiency and independence. He argued that true virtue is about developing strength from within, not relying on others or external circumstances. A man is not good because he is a servant to others, Seneca writes, but because he can stand on his own feet. His teachings remind us that kindness, when given in the form of enabling, actually hinders a person's ability to grow. It takes away their ability to cultivate resilience and problem-solving skills. While we might feel justified in helping someone, even at the expense of their independence, the Stoic perspective challenges us to ask, is this act of kindness truly helpful, or is it actually keeping someone stuck? So how does enabling harm those we're trying to help? The consequences are subtle but profound. When we enable others, we prevent them from facing the natural consequences of their actions. For example, if you continually lend money to a friend who has a poor financial habit, they may never learn how to manage their finances responsibly. Similarly, if you always intervene in your child's conflicts at school, they may not develop the social skills necessary to navigate relationships on their own. In both cases, your overzealous kindness keeps them from learning how to be self-reliant ultimately making them dependent on your support in ways that stunt their personal growth. The Stoics advocate for a form of kindness that fosters independence rather than dependency. Marcus Aurelius, for example, often reflected on the idea that we are all part of a greater whole, interconnected with others. His meditations teach that it is virtuous to offer help, but we should not give to the point where we deprive others of their agency. Stoicism teaches that helping others should be a way to empower them, not to take away their ability to act on their own. This is where the true wisdom of Stoicism comes in. We must help others in a way that enables them to build their own strength, wisdom, and character. A Stoic would not seek to remove the struggles of others, but to help them face their difficulties with courage, resilience, and self-sufficiency. This approach fosters long-term growth and empowerment rather than short-term relief. So what happens when we switch from being a helper to an enabler? At first, it might feel like you're doing the right thing by easing someone's burden. But over time, both you and the person you're trying to help will find yourself stuck in an unhealthy cycle. They may come to rely on you for solutions, and you may begin to feel resentment for the emotional, physical, or financial toll that comes with constantly stepping in. Enabling creates a relationship dynamic where you're always the fixer, and the other person becomes dependent on your kindness, expecting it without ever having to change their behavior or learn from their mistakes. From a Stoic perspective, this creates an imbalance. The Stoics believed that a virtuous life is one of rationality and responsibility, not one where others' problems become your personal burden to carry. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself in meditations that it is unreasonable to expect to control the actions or decisions of others. His advice suggests that instead of constantly intervening in others' lives, we should focus on guiding them to develop their own judgment and decision-making skills. In the end, the greatest kindness we can offer to others is to help them stand on their own. When we shift from enabling to empowering, we create a dynamic where our kindness promotes growth, not dependency. We offer the opportunity for others to face their challenges, learn from their failures, and become stronger, wiser individuals. We step back just enough to allow them the space they need to succeed on their own terms, while still being available for guidance and support when necessary. The Stoics teach that the most profound acts of kindness are those that encourage personal growth and independence, not those that cushion someone from their own struggles. So, next time you feel compelled to step in and help, ask yourself, am I empowering this person, or am I simply making their life easier in a way that will ultimately harm them? True kindness, according to Stoicism, is not about giving until it hurts, but about giving in a way that helps others find their strength and build their own future. 5. Way number 3. Kindness without expectation leads to disappointment. Kindness is often described as one of the most virtuous acts a person can offer, but there's an important distinction to be made when it comes to the intention behind our acts of kindness. When we give to others, it's crucial to examine whether we're doing so out of genuine goodwill, or if there's an unspoken expectation of recognition, gratitude, or return. The danger of giving with hidden expectations is that it can ultimately lead to disappointment, frustration, and a sense of emotional depletion when those expectations aren't met. Many people, at some point, have given with the hope of receiving something in return. Whether it's a thank you, a favour in the future, or even just acknowledgement for their efforts. This is where kindness can become entangled with obligation or the desire for recognition. When we give because we feel obligated or because we are hoping for something in return, the act of kindness loses its purity. Instead of being an act of generosity, it becomes a transaction, and the outcome of that transaction becomes something we eagerly anticipate. The danger of this is that we risk becoming emotionally attached to the outcome, and when that outcome doesn't come to fruition, we are left feeling frustrated and hurt. Epictetus, one of the foremost Stoic philosophers, spoke directly to this issue when he said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." This Stoic insight is crucial in understanding why expecting something in return for kindness is so damaging. We have control over our actions, what we give, how we give, and why we give. But we do not control how others will react or whether they will return the favor. The Stoic approach to kindness is rooted in this fundamental truth. We should give without expecting anything in return, for we cannot guarantee how others will respond. When we give with hidden expectations, even if we aren't consciously aware of them, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment. Think about the times you've gone out of your way to help someone, only to feel unappreciated or unacknowledged afterward. It can sting, and the emotional toll is real. We feel hurt, resentful, or even angry, because in those moments, our kindness was conditional on getting something back. What we often fail to realize is that we've essentially put a price on our kindness, turning it into a form of barter rather than genuine goodwill. The Stoic viewpoint offers a refreshing contrast to this transactional mindset. In Stoicism, true kindness comes from a place of abundance, not need. When we act from a place of abundance, we give freely, without any expectation of compensation or reciprocity. This mindset shifts the focus from what we might gain to what we are offering to others. The Stoics teach that kindness should flow naturally from a heart that is content and self-sufficient. They recognize that our emotional well-being is not tied to the reactions of others, but is rooted in our ability to act virtuously regardless of external validation. Marcus Aurelius, for example, frequently wrote in his meditations about the importance of giving without attachment. He reflects on the idea that our true joy should come from the act of living virtuously, not from the recognition or praise of others. "Do not waste time on what you cannot control," he wrote, reminding himself and others that external approval or gratitude is beyond our control. Instead, the Stoic ideal is to give with a spirit of detachment and peace, knowing that the act itself is enough. The true reward, in this sense, is in the action itself, not in the outcome. This approach has a powerful impact on emotional well-being. When you give without expectations, there is no room for disappointment, because your satisfaction comes not from how others respond, but from knowing that you acted in alignment with your values. If your kindness is not reciprocated, it doesn't diminish the value of your actions or your self-worth. By letting go of expectations, you liberate yourself from the emotional roller coaster of hoping for a return. And you free your heart to continue giving from a place of pure, unselfish generosity. Now here's the challenge. Ask yourself, is your kindness truly kindness, or are you secretly expecting something in return? Are you helping others because you genuinely want to? Or are you giving because you're hoping for recognition, a favor, or simply a feeling of validation? If the answer is the latter, you might want to take a step back and reassess your intentions. Stoicism teaches that true generosity doesn't hinge on the recipient's response. Instead, it comes from a place of internal peace and abundance, where giving is its own reward. The danger of giving with hidden expectations isn't just about disappointment. is also about the emotional toll it takes when our kindness is unreciprocated. The frustration, resentment, and bitterness that can arise from unmet expectations can gradually eat away at our sense of inner peace. By practicing kindness without expectation, we reduce the chances of these negative emotions creeping into our lives. We become more resilient, more content, and more able to give freely without strings attached. In conclusion, kindness without expectation is not just a more effective way to be kind. It's a way to protect your emotional well-being and strengthen your ability to live virtuously. Stoicism teaches us that true kindness is not a tool for gaining something, but an expression of virtue and peace that flows naturally from within. When you act with genuine generosity, free from expectation, your kindness becomes a source of personal strength rather than a source of emotional frustration. So, the next time you give, pause and ask, am I giving freely, or am I secretly hoping for something in return? Only by letting go of expectation can we experience the true, unburdened joy of kindness. 6. Way number 4. The risk of becoming too available. In the modern world, many of us feel an inherent pressure to always be available, to answer every call, to attend to every request, to be the friend or colleague who's always there for others. At first, it seems like the epitome of kindness. After all, how can you be too kind by offering your time and energy to those who need it? However, the danger of being too available is that it can quickly lead to exhaustion, burnout, and ultimately, the erosion of both your own well-being and the value of your kindness. The problem of being constantly available is that it can easily be perceived as weakness. If you're always willing to drop everything to help someone, your kindness may no longer be seen as a generous offering, but rather as an expectation. Others may begin to take your availability for granted, assuming that your time and energy are limitless. This leads to a vicious cycle where you're continually giving, but your kindness is no longer valued as much as it should be. When you're too available, your time becomes depleted, and the quality of your help diminishes because it no longer comes from a place of abundance or personal strength. Instead, it comes from a place of exhaustion and obligation. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher emperor, offers valuable wisdom on the importance of setting boundaries and respecting your own time. In these meditations, he reminds himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This statement is profound when applied to kindness. While you cannot control the demands that others place on you, you can control how much of your time and energy you give to others. Setting limits is not an act of selfishness. It's a way of preserving your own peace of mind and showing that you have the strength to continue offering your help to others without burning out. What happens when your time and energy are constantly drained by others? Over time, you'll likely begin to feel resentful, frustrated, and worn out. But those people you're helping may not even recognize how much of a toll it's taking on you, and that can lead to emotional exhaustion. Without boundaries, kindness starts to feel like an obligation rather than a choice, and the joy of helping others diminishes. This is where the Stoic idea of self-respect comes into play. By setting healthy boundaries, you're not just protecting yourself, you're also preserving the integrity of your kindness. When you prioritize your own well-being, you ensure that your kindness is sustainable and that it comes from a place of genuine generosity rather than depletion. The key here is that setting boundaries is not a rejection of others. It's a way of respecting both your time and theirs. When you set limits, you communicate to others that your time is valuable and that you deserve space to recharge and care for yourself. This fosters a sense of mutual respect in your relationships. Healthy boundaries allow you to help others without feeling taken advantage of, and they also encourage others to value your time, making the help you offer more meaningful and impactful. Stoic philosophy teaches us that the best way to approach kindness is with self-awareness. When you know your limits, you're able to give freely and with intention. Setting boundaries ensures that you're not giving out of obligation, but out of a genuine desire to help. with the strength and clarity that comes from caring for yourself first. The Stoics didn't view boundaries as something that limits us, but rather something that gives us the freedom to live according to our principles. By honouring your own needs and respecting your time, you're in a much stronger position to help others in ways that are truly valuable, both for you and for them. So the next time you feel yourself being pulled in a dozen different directions, remember, it's okay to say no. It's okay to prioritise your own well-being. In fact, it's necessary. Setting boundaries isn't a weakness, it's an act of strength, and it will ultimately enhance your kindness. 7. Conclusion. Finding the balance. Excessive kindness can be detrimental to our lives in many ways. We've explored how being too kind without boundaries can lead to self-neglect, enabling others to remain dependent, disappointment from unspoken expectations, and the risk of being too available for everyone. Each of these pitfalls strips away the true essence of kindness, leaving us drained, resentful, and unfulfilled. Stoicism offers us a different approach. Kindness should come from a place of strength, not depletion. The Stoics teach us that to live virtuously, we must first care for ourselves, cultivating balance, setting boundaries, and practicing self-discipline. True kindness is rooted in self-awareness, not in the obligation to give endlessly or to seek recognition. When we give from a place of abundance, not need, we are able to help others in ways that empower them, while also protecting our own well-being. Stoicism emphasizes that the key to a fulfilling life is living in harmony with our values, where we care for others without losing sight of our own needs. By implementing the Stoic principles of balance, detachment from expectations, and self-respect, we can cultivate kindness that is both sustainable and impactful. So how can you apply Stoic principles to be kind without losing yourself? Start by practicing mindfulness in your interactions. Check your motivations and ask yourself if your kindness is genuine, or if it comes with hidden expectations. Set boundaries that respect both your time and the needs of others. Give freely, but with wisdom, knowing that true generosity comes from a place of self-awareness. As you begin to implement these Stoic insights into your own life, you'll discover that true kindness doesn't deplete. It replenishes. It enriches both you and those around you. Now is the time to take action. Reflect on how you can find the balance in your own life and become a source of kindness that is rooted in strength, wisdom, and mutual respect.